Hello friends, Isabel here again. I've had a little bit of a splurge this week. I've had a few decks that I've had my eye on for a while, and one of them was the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, and it was reduced in a shop here in the UK, so I ordered it, and when it arrived the book had been misprinted, so I'm currently waiting for a replacement copy. However, in my misery I succumbed to some more temptation. As I'm fairly new to the tarot journey, I've spent the last few months watching a lot of videos and I'm still learning about the cards, and I've realised it's so easy to be drawn into buying decks really quickly. There are so many decks out there and so many of them have beautiful images, but I've become aware that it's important to look carefully at the decks to make sure that you're going to be drawn into what you're seeing. And I've started becoming more careful about what I'm purchasing or what I'm looking at, and thinking more carefully about how I will integrate them in my practice or how they're going to speak to me as my intuition and my spiritual knowledge develops. Now, this week I bought myself the Light Seer Tarot, the mass market edition. I have seen this so many times on walkthroughs, on favourites, on if you're going to buy mass market, this is the one to get. I've seen images and I've been drawn to it, and then I've stepped back and thought, oh, maybe not. And then this week I saw a picture of the Strength card on Simon's The Hermit's Cave channel, and it just really spoke to me suddenly, and I realised that this was the right time to get the deck. And it arrived, and I've not had chance because I was really busy the day it arrived and the day after to look at it, but I'm off work today and I've got a little bit of time to explore it, so I'm going to sit in the sun later and really explore the cards, along with some of the other things that came this week, which includes my pre-ordered Lunar Soul Tarot, one of my cards of the day, and a set called the Sacred Sites Oracle cards. And I thought, seeing as the house was quiet, I'd do a little video, but I didn't want to do a walkthrough because, to be perfectly honest, I don't know about everywhere else, but I've seen this quite a few times on videos, and I know that there's already a couple of walkthroughs of this one from people who were sent it to look at. So this is the new edition of the Lunar Soul from Liminal 11 with the magnetic close. So what I thought I'd do, having seen another video, was just look at a couple of the cards that spoke to me and encouraged me to buy this deck, as an alternative way for people to think about deck buying. I think it's important not to be drawn in all the time. I've realised this because there are so many decks out there. There are so many makers. There are people who are doing such a fantastic job. And there's then all the kind of clones. And if you want to collect and you want to buy loads, that's fine. But I know that I don't have a lot of time to really commit at the moment to them, and I don't really want to spend loads. I have got some on order and I have got a couple of Kickstarters, and I'm keen to support artists in the UK as well as overseas. So I've started being a bit more careful about when I buy decks. I will look and see what people say about the guidebook, and I really like guidebooks where they give you things like these little affirmations. It's go time. I fall into the flow of this quickening energy and I swiftly face my desires head on, because I think that that's a really good way. If you draw an individual card for the day and you read about it, it's very easy to sort of overlook it, even if it's sat there on your desk or somewhere visible. I know I'll forget about it by the end of the day, but sometimes if I can sit there and repeat a little affirmation, that perhaps goes in a bit more, and it allows me to use the message that the cards are saying. So I'm quite drawn to those while I'm still learning. I know for people who don't use guidebooks and people who aren't excuse me, who are more intuitive, they would just look at the message. But if you're just doing a single card pull, something like this, I think, for me, is really helpful. When it comes to the deck, one of the things I have to do is think about, is the artwork going to speak to me? Are the pictures going to speak to me? It's very easy to buy a deck where, you see a card and think, oh, that's really pretty, but then realise that actually you haven't a clue what the cards are kind of talking about or what they're saying. And I think that some of the decks I look at, some of the cards I look at in these decks, sometimes I look at the Empress. Now, I'm not always a big fan of the naked form or the obvious pregnancy, but I really love this particular version of it because of the way it incorporates the earthliness and the earth. I have the Gil Tarot Empress card is one of my favourites, and that's because it shows how, talks about Mother Nature to me, and how the Empress is this kind of nurturing earthly figure. So that I find quite beautiful. Another card I like to look at is the Hierophant, the teacher. I like different portrayals. To me, this idea of the spiritual learning that can come, hints of yoga, of different cultures. I like another deck I've got, the card is more representative of Jesus. And I just like Hierophants where I feel like they are speaking to me about the learning and the teaching that can be gained. Some Hierophant cards I find a little bit complex. Even here I've just seen, you see, when you look closely at these cards, I don't know if you can see, if the camera will focus, the tiny little fish there that speaks to me of Christianity, or the different symbols. You've got the Celtic symbols, you've got, and just the fact that they've put that thought into, look at all these different types of spirituality and faith and learning that can come in. So another card that speaks to me. Strength is one of my favourite cards. I have an affinity with thinking about the strength of a lion and the power. One of my favourite books is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And it is very well known, but if you don't know it, Aslan is a lion and he's a teacher and a leader, and many say he's representative of Jesus or the prophets that people follow. So he's that kind of like spiritual guide almost. I love how this card combines the spiritual lion and strength of the lion inside the woman. This is the card that was posted the other day that finally sold this deck to me. It's just, to me, it's really powerful. Hermit is my birth or life card, number 9. It is also a card that really speaks to me. I find, looking back, that there have been times where I've become overwhelmed. I have generalized anxiety, I am prone to depression, and I worry and I get very worked up sometimes. And there have been a lot of moments where in the past I've had to move away and just be somewhere on my own, quiet, still. I just love to sit somewhere and by a beach or you know, somewhere outside, absorbing nature and just breathing it in and thinking and letting my head run and trying to get rid of all those negative thoughts if I can. And so the Hermit often speaks to me of that. And this one's just so beautiful, the light radiating out. You've still got your little lantern and your mountains, but the peace that I think is radiating from this character. Another one of my favourite hermits in one of my early decks is the Everyday Witch Hermit, and if you look it up, again, she's in the forest, it's peace, it's almost meditation. And I think this card really speaks to me. What I do find is that I tend to focus in on the major cards, and one of the things that I know I need to do is start to look beyond the majors to the minors. But having said that, I do find that I can flick through and I know that there'll be cards. You look at that celebration card and the Four of Wands, and just to me, you know, I'm drawn to that card. And I think this deck certainly draws me in now even more, and I'm so glad that I finally got it, and I'm going to be able to study it, and I'm going to be able to explore and dive deeper, because I think there's a lot in here that I feel that I can really kind of gain from. And I think, you know, it is important, especially if you're like me and you're early in the journey, to take a bit of time to look at some of the cards and think carefully, because, you know, so many people are producing such beautiful decks, and a collection can grow so fast. And I know that recently I've kind of got absorbed, and I've stopped myself because I found myself kind of looking at more and more decks, or going on eBay, and I've kind of thought, well, I've not even had the time to learn and explore the decks that I've got. Another thing I actually like about this deck, which is completely aside from the pictures, is the size and the shape. I've got a lot of decks at the moment. Several of my decks I find quite wide, and although I don't have particularly small hands, they're quite broad. I do find that shuffling decks like this one, that's much wider, is really hard. They go all over the shop, and I think having a deck that when you run it in your hands, like, to me, just feeling that deck and feeling it sliding in my hands, I can just sit here spinning it, and I'm just absorbing the beautiful energy from those pictures I've looked at, and that's so cool as well. So I'm really excited to explore this deck some more, but I hope that by me doing this video rather than a walkthrough, it gives you another way of approaching decks when you're going to buy and think about how you're going to use them. I'm going to start off by looking through these cards, absorbing the imagery, having my learning tools beside me, because I still haven't a clue about some of the cards. I'm getting really good at some of them, but others I've really not studied. Trying to hone my intuition. It's a nice day here, so hopefully I'm going to do that outside in the sun. And then I will hopefully be able to do that with some of my other decks as well. I may do a similar video on my Sacred Sites Oracle cards that I got, how I'm going to use them, what I intend to, why I bought them, and what I intend to harness from them. And then with the Lunar Soul, as I say, I know that there are already walkthroughs, there are people talking about cardstock, and if you know Liminal 11 and you know their new style, you will know what it looks like, what it feels like. And I think for me, knowing there are other walkthroughs out there, I'm going to start doing a few more of my videos as kind of what's drawn me to the deck, or maybe how am I going to work with it if it's perhaps an Oracle deck. And hopefully, guys, let me know if you think that's a good alternative to a standard walkthrough. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed my little chat about Light Seers. Apologies if it was a bit of a ramble. I tend to get that way, but yeah, I'm glad I bought it. It's a nice size as well. You know, it's a nice kind of portable size. But let me know, and for now, take care, enjoy your days, and until the next time, bye.